And there you go, everyone. Welcome to the panel from hell. I'm Jeff Keighley. A big day for Baldur's Gate 3, and we have a lot of information to guys about the game. But first of all, we started with that incredible CG. You've seen some of that before, but of course the end was brand new with the world premiere of the full CGI intro for Baldur's Gate 3. And from the looks of it, as you saw right there, we are going to hell in this game, and we're going to learn a lot about that reveal and so much more today. But we're not going to hell alone. I've got some special guests for this panel to give you all the inside scoop on early access for BG3. I'm joined by Mr. Larian himself, creative director Sven from Larian, of course, and also D&D unicorn Chris Perkins from Wizards of the Coast, and Larian's legendary writer Adam Smith. Guys, I have to say, Chris, I guess you didn't get the memo about the set here. It's like these guys.
No, I did not. I'm feeling a little set envy.
This is my
Sven's in, he's got his armor. I mean, Adam's got the lights. I love it. You guys are full-on method. It's a big day for BG3 fans. We've been waiting for details on early access, and I've seen the rundown, guys. Don't worry. We are going to get a date out of these guys by the end of the stream, they promised me. But first of all, let's talk a bit about the game, what was just revealed. Sven, the journey in Baldur's Gate 3 will actually start in Avernus, which is, the first layer of hell here. Tell us a bit about what we just saw and how that's going to tie into the game.
Yeah, so hi Jeff and hi everybody. So we are in a lot of trouble. We were kidnapped. We were snatched by these mind flayers, these alien creatures. They put us aboard this nautiloid. They put a tadpole through our eye, so that's already not very pleasant. Then they were chased by dragons. They tried to escape from these dragons. They decided it was a really good idea to go to hell, to Avernus, the first layer of the 9 hells, to try to escape these red dragons. But these red dragons managed to follow them. But not only that, they managed to teleport themselves right into the middle of a big conflict between devils and demons. And so me, as a player, I'm going to try to figure out, as a level 1 character, how the hell am I going to get out of here? And so our journey begins in the middle of the Blood War. And the Blood War is a big thing in Dungeons & Dragons. And as a matter of fact, actually, Chris recently, together with his colleagues at Wizards of the Coast, released a book about that, which was Descent into Avernus.
Oh, there's the book itself. Tell us about it.
So the Blood War, for those who don't know, is this eternal battle between demons, which are kind of like evil creatures of entropy that want to destroy everything, and devils, who are evil subjugators and overlords who want to control everything. And that in and of itself doesn't sound like a bad thing until you realize that the Blood War tends to spill all over the place and onto other planes, pretty much anywhere. And so it's really just kind of bad for everybody. And it's been going on for such a long time, longer than anybody can remember, and is not to end anytime soon.
All right.
Yeah.
And
as far as the hell is concerned, so if you don't know much about the 9 hells, there are 9 layers of the hells, and Avernus is the topmost layer. And that is where demons are constantly invading and devils are constantly trying to repel them. And so it's this tireless, ageless battleground heaped with corpses and shattered remains of flying citadels like you saw in the introduction. And it's
in Descent into
really
Avernus, so we talk about in Descent into Avernus, there's a cataclysmic event where the Blood War does spill over into Faerun, and it's a city called Elturel, which is actually dragged into hell. This all happens in Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, the D&D adventure module. When we started to build Baldur's Gate 3, we had to decide what actually happened to Elturel at the end of that adventure, because like any good adventure, like any good role-playing game, there's many different ways that story can go. In our story, Elturel is actually, it is saved,
But that's not the end of it. It's a cataclysmic event. It has aftershocks that are still passing through the world. So when we regain control of the Nautiloid, we bring ourselves back to Faerûn and we crash land. And we crash land somewhere between Baldur's Gate, which is on the west and the Sword Coast, and Elturel. And we're going to see the aftermath of Elturel's descent. There are trains of refugees traveling through this area, and we're going to get caught up in their stories. We can help them, we can hinder them, we can get involved in their stories, but that's not our story. Our story goes back to this thing inside our brain. And if you could talk a little bit about that, the parasite, Chris, and what that's actually doing inside us right now.
Yeah, so mind flayers, they're awful. But mind flayers do not procreate the way most other creatures do. The way they procreate is through a process called seromorphosis, in which they implant this parasite into a humanoid host. And over time, the parasite transforms the host magically into a fully grown adult mind flayer. And it's an absolutely horrific and disturbing process. Once you become a mind flayer, of course, you don't have much in the way of memories of your past self. You are basically one of them.
So, but this tadpole, of course, is a bit different. We already revealed a little bit about that. So, as we start panicking and we figured out a way out of hell, we are going to try to figure out how the hell are we going to get rid of this tadpole that's inside of us. And as we're doing that, we'll learn things about the tadpole, and we'll learn that we actually don't have a lot of days left ahead of us. And then suddenly something strange starts happening. We start gaining strange powers. We start not transforming into a mind flayer, which is good, we think. And some of us in our party start thinking, like, maybe this infection is not such a bad thing. Maybe there's something to be said for it, because like for certain characters, it's actually solving problems that they have in life. And so there's a rift that appears in the party. Certain characters say like, well, we need to get rid of this thing. We can't leave it inside of us. Some say, well, maybe we should figure out first what's going on here. Maybe we can find a way of controlling it. And then others say like, hell yeah, this is really cool. We should join the bad guys that are responsible for all of this. And it's at exactly that moment that hell comes back into the storyline, because a nice gentleman by the name of Raphael makes his action, and he introduces himself very rapidly as a devil. He's very open about it, and he says, well, look, I mean, like, I'm here to propose you a deal. And the reason why I'm proposing a deal to you is because you don't really care about your soul anyway, because you don't have a soul anymore. If you turn into a mind flayer, your soul is gone. So what do you have to lose? And so what's cool is that in multiplayer, when you have multiple players who are going to be confronted by a Raphael, they get to decide what they're going to do. So, for instance, Chris, you could say, hell no, I'm never going to live with this tadpole. And Adam could say, well, hell yeah, I'm going to do that. And I could say somewhere in between. And so maybe Adam makes a pact with the devil so he can get the best of the tadpole.
I definitely
he doesn't
would.
transform into a mind flayer. And so that's
that is
where
such a mistake. That is
deals with the devil.
That would be a huge mistake. Yeah, deals with the devil.
I make a lot of mistakes, Chris. I make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
So
no,
the funny thing
it's
about
amazing.
No, go on.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, these devil, you know, the devil and the motivation. You know, you talked about sort of, you know, wanting your soul and these deals. Why would you want to make a deal?
Well, curiosity. I think a lot of good adventure begins with curiosity. You know, I mean, I'm an expert on making mistakes, so I will take this. I may just be curious. I may just want to see what happens. I may be seduced by the devil. They're charismatic. But fundamentally, I have a serious problem, and maybe this devil can help with the problem. But Chris, if you could just talk about what the devil wants in return. What do they actually want from me?
So in the 9 hells, souls are the currency of the realm. For a devil to acquire a soul, that's great for them because they can trade that soul in essentially to rise in power in the hierarchy that kind of rules the 9 hells. So That's really what they want, souls, souls, souls. And in order to get them, though, they have to corrupt them first. They can't just grab anybody's soul. They have to lead someone down a path where they keep making bad decisions, evil choices, and so that when they die, their soul naturally goes to the 9 hells. That's what the devil wants to happen. And so they're always orchestrating events to try to make that happen. And they can do it through seduction, they can do it through deception. However they want to do it is fine. But that's their end game.
Speaking of decisions and choices, we're going to see a lot of gameplay today, and of course, at the heart of these games is decision and choice for the players. We're going to talk a bit about Crusher, who will be returning here for some interactive moments throughout the stream. Adam, why don't you tell us a bit about Crusher and Crusher's role?
Yeah, so we're going to move away from devils briefly and look at a situation some of you may have seen before. We're going to see different aspects of that. So, as a big shout out to the BG3 subreddit, you guys know I love goblins, I love you. This is a scene where we've actually become friends with some goblins. We've actually gone into an encounter of goblins and we're interacting them in a friendly way. We've not gone in bashing their heads. We've decided, hey, let's play cool with them. So we're at a party, we're having a good time. We're having a real good time with these goblins, but then we Crusher. And Crusher's obnoxious, he's unpleasant, he's the guy he's the death of the party. So we're going to meet him and we're going to see how this interaction goes, I think, now, yeah?
Take a look.
Oh yeah, by the way, Nick is joining us again, and he's going to be driving the gameplay here and lead us all the way to Crusher. And then you guys are going to get to make the decisions. Now, while he's doing that, can I just do like a big shout out? Try to make different decisions than you did last time, community. So try to not make the same decision, so you can see how this pans out differently. It's up to you. I mean, but I would sincerely advise you to go in a different direction.
Rest his arm with me bare hands. Weaker than pixies, humans.
Oh, you got him good.
And who are you? Another pest? Dwarves. Think you rule the world, ha? Everyone says that. And then they spit in our faces. But no more. It's a changing. We got the absolute on our side now. You better learn your place. Go on. Kiss my foot. Or I'll wipe that nasty look right off your face.
End him or leave him. But don't you dare grovel to this slug.
All right.
Do I need to rip your ear shells off? You heard me.
There's our choice. 4 options. So in the chat, you guys can select which one we should actively choose here, and then we'll come back a little bit later in the stream and see how this sequence plays out based on the community. But guys, which one would you suggest the audience pick? Let's sway them out of the 4 options here. Let's start with you, Chris.
I've got a bit of a rogue temperament, and I'm kind of tempted by whatever that is on his foot there. So I'm of a mind to go with option 1.
Sven?
And, oh, go on, Sven.
All right. No, go ahead, Adam. I go ahead.
Well, I already said I'm a friend to all goblins, so I'm kissing that goblin wherever he wants to kiss.
Sven?
So I'm intent on showing players a different outcome than they picked last time. I'm pretty sure they're going to pick exactly the same thing they picked last time, because that's how people are. But in the case that they want to follow my advice, I would suggest that we spit in his face. I mean, I think that's a very powerful move. On top of that, Alizal is going to approve of this. So I would just go for spit him in the face.
All right. Well, 3 of the 4 options have been selected. You guys, again, vote in the chat, and then we'll come back in a few minutes, and we'll play out the sequence with your choice, and this will continue on kind of throughout the stream. while we tally results in the chat, wanted to ask you guys on just development of BG3, how things are progressing on the game. Obviously it's been a difficult year for all of us, and especially game developers working from home in this COVID pandemic world. So Sven, wanted to ask you, how is development going? We know we're going to get an early access date out of you guys, hopefully by the end of the stream here. What's it been like to make BG3 this year? Are things progressing as you'd like?
Yeah, it's going. I mean, the question how development is going ever since we started on this. I think I had the guys from Wizards ask me continues, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? So I'll be very happy that we can say, well, actually we have something to show now, so that you can actually go and play, and then I think people will like. So, but it's going. It's slower than we had hoped, of course. But we're getting there. We got pretty much all of our content in there. We managed to get our recording studios back online, which was a big thing. So they're going to be recording the final bits this month. So that's good. We are making progress. Work from home. Luckily, we have studios scattered around the world. So several of them are booted up again. So we're working at 50-60% capacity. So that's also really good. So we're in a good shape to actually push this thing through and get it into the hands of players, so that at least they can start fooling around with early access. We would probably already actually have been able to ship early access if we hadn't fallen into some of our old traps. One of these is our ability to underestimate exactly how much we have to add. It seems like we have this counter where we see okay, these are the amount of dialogues in the game, this is the amount of dialogues that are recorded, this is the amount of cinematics that are finished, and that counter is supposed to go to 100%, and then we can ship the early access content. But I think this counter has been doing it, went from 70 to 80 to 90 to 80 to 70 to 60 to 70 to 80 and so forth. And recently it's been trying to get to 100%, and it's been hovering around 95% since forever. And so that has everything of course to do with the fact that for each dialogue we write, 2 new dialogues pop up as edge cases appear. Right, Adam?
Yeah, first of all, sorry. Second of all, there are multiple reasons for this. This is the first game that the scale that I've worked on, and one of the things that we are very, very keen to do is to make sure this world is as reactive as we can possibly make it, because that benefits all of you when you play. So as we build a situation, as we build a quest, as we build a dialogue, what we find is that somebody within the team or somebody within a different department might say, well, I'd love to be able to do that, or I'm going to approach from this angle, or I'm going to break the timing of this and the chronology of it. And we don't say no, we say yes, and then we adapt to that, and we make sure that the dialogue makes sense, that the way the world reacts makes sense, and that it remembers what you did. And that just adds complexity onto complexity, and it makes for a really, really satisfying experience. And the other part of that is that if somebody has a really cool idea, then it tends to find its way into the game. And we have a lot of really smart people who have really good ideas, and those ideas do end up in the game on the whole. And it goes further than that. Sometimes we have a very small idea and it blossoms and it grows and it ends up in the game. And I think Sven has a particular example of something that really demonstrates this. And yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I got this real cool button that I'm gonna hit right now for the first time. It's like, okay, you hit the right one. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I like a good world premiere. So, there you go.
Yeah, hold on. Wait until you see my other button. We're a company that iterates a lot, as Adam said, and we give a lot of room for what is a good idea. So a couple of weeks ago, and this is literally only a couple of weeks ago, and I picked this example specifically because of that. One of our scripters transformed something that was a piece of scenery into an interactive object. And so we do these regular reviews of the content, and we're looking at this thing so that's pretty cool. And so then the interactive object became a situation. And so we looked at that situation and said, oh, that's really cool. And then that situation became a scene where you can recruit a follower, and it said, whoa, this is really, really cool. And then now there's an entire movement within the company trying to make this follower into a companion, which is where I said, okay, stop. So we're not going to start doing, otherwise we're never going to end. But it's a very cool example of how the game gets better, how it gets evolves pretty much like a tabletop campaign would go together with the players. In this case, the players are the developers. And it's also something I'm very proud of what the team did, because you literally have to realize that what you're about to see right now, 2 weeks ago, did not exist. And it was just a stupid object somewhere sitting on the line of a nautiloid. So I'm going to hit my button again, and then we're going to have a look at, oh, there's my button again, our lobotomy scene. Let's look at it.
You've come to save us from this place. From this place, you'll free us.
The exposed brain quivers in expectation.
Please. Please. Before they return. They return. A newborn. Born new from this husk.
You realize you're talking to an intellect devourer, a minion of the mind flayers who abducted you.
Remove us from this body. From this case! Free us! Please.
You notice edema, a swelling of the brain causing pressure where it strains against the shell of the skull. The brain lifts from the skull. But you notice an opportunity. You could cripple the strange creature, making it more subservient, should it prove a threat. The creature seems unaware of your interference. It relaxes in your hands.
We are free. Our freedom is ours, friend.
The creature pauses, listening. Something behind your eyes seizes in recognition.
We must go to the helm. At the helm, we are needed. Us. We are us. To the helm we go! We are going to the helm.
Isn't that awesome?
All right, well, we got to find out a little bit more lore about this friend, the intellect devourer. Chris, tell us about an intellect devourer.
First of all, that was super gross, but also awesome. Intellect devourers are creatures made by mind flayers out of the brains of humanoids. The mind flayers have arcane rituals that they can cast upon the brain and then transform it into the creature that you saw. Now, what's dangerous about an intellect devourer, once it's been created, is it itself has these psychic powers and can psionically or psychically bombard you, causing your brain essentially to turn to slush. And then once it has destroyed the brain in your skull, it teleports into your skull, replaces your brain, and basically operates you like
Wait, Sven's got one right there?
Operating a puppet.
I got it. I'm trying to eat it, but my armor is stuck. I can't believe it.
An intellect power.
I got this awesome stuff from our props department, and so hold on, because it even gets better. We're now selling them on shop.larian.com. They come like this. You can have little intellect order. I'm kidding. It's not true. It's not true. Okay. Anyway, Chris, I interrupted you. Sorry.
No, that's totally cool. So what's obviously disturbing is you could be talking to somebody and not realize that their brain has been replaced with an intellect devour, and you're being to a meat puppet.
Not me though.
So, all right.
So the thing is there you go. Yeah. And so in BG3, actually, because of the tadpole that you have, you learn that you can actually communicate with all these mind flayer related creatures, and you can command them. They can try to command you. So you got this entire interaction going on with them. But just going back to what I said before, I thought it was pretty amazing that the team managed to pull off this scene so fast. And it goes to show what we've been doing all these years as we've been working on BG3. We made this gigantic, how shall I call it, situation production machine, where if somebody comes up with a great idea, they can put it into the game fairly fast, link it to everything in there. They got a whole bunch of tools that support them. Because now that because that's what its name is in the tutorial, other characters had to react to it. Is it present in your party? Is us following you? So they need to start reacting to that. So that's the permutations that Adam was talking about. And that came about really fluently when you looked at it, how the development of it was going. And it goes from, this started with scripting. A writer jumped on it, then the entire art team jumped on it together with the animators, the cinematic guys, the sound guys, voice guys. There's a lot of talent in just making that little scene that needs to be there. And I just find it amazing that they can get this, and it shows how far the studio has come actually since we started working on BG3 back in 2017. So we have now this huge machine that can support lots of choices, and we're heavily abusing it, let's put it that way.
Never-ending content. But yeah, that's a fun sequence, and obviously you guys have been building so much content that we're going to talk about. The amount of stuff that's in early access, we'll get to it, but I'm pretty blown away with what you guys have put together. So let's check in with our friend Crusher now and see what the audience wants to do next. We have the results of the poll in, and it looks like 41% of you picked to intimidate him with how about you kiss my feet instead. So but the audience, let's take a look. World premiere.
Nobody listens to me. That's exactly what they deserve for not listening to me.
You ain't got nothing on me, so kiss my foot.
I suggest an apology.
I do too.
It.
All right. I couldn't read what you did, Nick.
All right. All right, the next choice there. 4 more options. So again, in the chat, take your pick there about how you want to kiss the foot, and then we'll follow that up in a second and see what people select this time around. All right, so we've seen a glimpse of Avernus, goblins, intellect devourers. A lot of folks watching this, I think, want to know early access. We're going to get a date out of you, but also like the content of a. What can we expect in terms of the scale and scope of what you're going to put out into the world for players to play around with, Sven?
I'll take this actually.
Okay, Adam.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm going to take it, Sven. I think that, as you say, you've already seen, just for early access, you've got multiple planes of existence. We're showing you Avernus. We're then taking you to Faerun, and when you get to Faerun, you're going to see Dungeons and Dragons, which you might expect. You're going to see temples. You're going to see a big chunk of gameplay on the surface world. A lot of it we haven't shown yet. You'll get to meet those goblins. You'll get to meet a lot of other people as well. And we've already teased the Underdark. He will be going to the Underdark. There's a lot to see. There's a lot of secrets and mysteries down there. There's a lot of danger down there as well. You're going to meet a lot of different characters. Some of them you may recognize if you're a D&D fan. You already met Volo previously, and he made a brief cameo, I think, earlier today for an eagle-eyed who spotted him. But you will meet lots of different characters, many different characters. You're going to see different factions of which you'll recognize, some that we've invented ourselves. And of course, there's going to be a lot of monsters on the surface and in the Underdark. And those monsters include...
World premiere.
A bullet. Now, Chris, could you tell us what a bullet is?
Yeah, a bullet is a terrifyingly large monster that sometimes goes by the name land shark. And what it does, as its name suggests, is it burrows under the ground just below the surface, churning up the earth as it goes while it hunts. And then when it sees something it wants to eat on the surface, it bursts up out of the ground to chomp on it. And it's big and terrifying. That's all I'll say.
I mean, you have so much content in EA. I know we were talking earlier. You thought it would be 20+ hours of stuff for folks to play around with. So lots of stuff to it. And I think people probably want to know also about the classes, like what classes are going to be available, what level will we be able to reach in early access. Can you give us any kind of details there, Sven, on what we can expect?
Yeah and no. So because we are since we're still building the early access content, we're still slightly hesitant to announce all of the classes that are going to be in there. But I think that we should be able to cover at least a few of them. Chris, what do you play actually for the moment? What is it? What would you play?
So I often play rogues. I'm also a fan of fighters, and I like rangers because they're in touch with the primeval natural world.
All right.
Those are my favorites.
Well, we'll have all of those covered, so that's already something.
Oh.
And there will be more. So we'll have a action of classes that are going to be in there. We'll have quite a few races and quite a few sub races. We don't know exactly how many are going to be there. It depends on a couple of assets. We are going to allow you to create your own custom character. So when you'll see character creation, we should be presenting it soon enough. You will see you get a lot of customizability. As a matter of fact, later on the stream, we'll show a bit of gameplay that I just stumbled upon by fooling around in character creation and like just picking an option and said, oh my god, I start with that and now I can do that, and that is really cool. So you'll be able to create a wide selection of custom characters. And we'll let you in early access play up to level 4. Now, before you go saying, what, only level 4? Level 4 in Dungeons & Dragons is actually quite a lot already. Can you maybe help us explain that, Chris?
Sure. Well, the good news is that you're not as frail as you were when you were level 1, so you can take a bit of punishment. But more importantly is once you get to level 4, you've already made some key character-defining decisions. For instance, your class, you've chosen a subclass, which is sort of like a way to specialize within your class. And not only have you chosen a subclass, but you've probably had the option to choose a feat, which is a mechanic that lets you further customize your character and gives your character access to new ability. And obviously, if you're a spellcaster, by the time you hit 4th level, you're starting to get some fairly interesting spells.
Can you handle a bullet?
Even at level 4. Yeah, I was going to say, you're still going to struggle when we throw a land shark at you. You're still going to get shot.
Yes.
Thankfully, you'll be traveling alone. In early access, there are 5 companions that you can recruit that you'll meet during your journey. I'll briefly mention who they are. You will have met some of them already. You've been following our development. But here's a quick rundown. So there's Will. He's a human warlock who might feel either very at home or very alarmed by where I am right now. There's Shadowheart, who's a dark cleric on a mission from her goddess. Asterion, who's a very unusual character. He's a vampire spawn, so he has some unique mechanics. Lysel, who's a Githyanki warrior, who you see in the CGI intro. You see the Dragon Riders there as well. She's not with that group, but they are other Githyanki. So she knows a lot about Mind Flayers, so she's a very interesting character. And there's Gale, and Gale's a human wizard who has more things going wrong inside him than just a tadpole, but we'll say no more about that.
Now, with all these companions, I think everyone wants to know, can friends play companions? Are we going to get multiplayer in, at least in EA?
So not instantly. So we'll introduce it to play as one of the origin characters later on. That will give people the opportunity to get to know the companions from a third-person point of view, if you want, just by recruiting them. I gotta say, depending on which companions you pick, we talked about permutations earlier, you'll get a completely different experience. Like if you, for instance, if you take Shadowheart and Lysel, they can't stand each other, so that gives you completely different dynamics than if you take characters that actually like each other. So you should be able to have a lot of fun fooling around with these things. And we will have multiplayer in there, so you will be able to play with a party of up to 4. You'll be able to play online, you'll be able to play in LAN. We won't have split screen available from the get-go, but that will be added at some point during development also. So there's going to be quite a lot of things that you can fool around with, because between the class choices that you'll have and the race choices that you'll have and the choice of companions that you can have, that's already, when you start adding up all the permutations and you see what it means in game to have made those choices, that's already a lot of content that is going to be present in there.
Yeah. You talked a little earlier about like still figuring out quite what classes will be available at EA. I mean, it's like there's still things to be done, but I know we're going to pin you down on a date by the end of the stream, you promised. What is there left to do kind of between now and when you let the world in for early access on the game?
So I don't think we're going to add much more characters like us last minute anymore. So that was just really because they were still working on the tutorial area. I have to say the tutorial area is not finished yet, so we need to finish that one. We got the Act 1 that Adam talked about, that's done. So all the content is there. We're still balancing. There's some assets like the bullet that we talked about earlier on. Right now it looks like a bear because it's using the placeholder for bear, but soon
which is terrifying when
there.
It comes out of the ground.
It's pretty cool actually. It chases you around the Underdark, so it comes out at the most inopportune of times. So it's a rather interesting encounter, especially because it mingles with other encounters and you don't know when it's going to happen, and it's like it freaks the hell out of you because you're almost dead and then suddenly the bullet is there and you say no. Like, so we'll see how that works in early access if people hate it or not. But we're doing play tests now. And, actually, we have a bunch of people that are going to be passing by in the next couple of days, and so that will be going on until early access. We'll do balancing against them. We'll get rid of the most obnoxious UI things that might be in there that we have overlooked. So we'll try to fix the most prominent bugs. And then the last bit that is really, if there's one thing that at this point I think might cause a slight delay in addition to the date that I'm about to announce.
Oh my God! Here's the asterisk.
It's the asterisk. It's the optimization. So the game is coming out for both PC and Stadia. We want to get the minimum specs fairly low, so that a lot of people can already start fooling around with it. So there's a bunch of optimizations that need to happen, and optimizing is a very special profession. In the sense that every single time you optimize something, only then do you discover what the next thing is that you have to optimize. So these guys are literally driving blind in the realm of obstacles of optimization. So they're feeling moderately optimistic. I mean, I had a lunch with them today, and they were in a good mood, so that's good, because usually they're panicking. So we'll see how it goes. So it's looking okay, and I'm optimist by nature, so I'm just going to stick to that, and so I hope that everything is going to work out.
I was going to say, we still get data. Don't pull the date at the end. We need to get a date.
No.
Obviously, there's so much to this. We will give you guys a date. Don't worry. But Sven's always super honest with everyone about stuff. So yeah, we want to talk a bit more, I think, about the gameplay of what you're going to get in early access on Act 1. But before we do that, let's check back with Crusher to see what you guys picked. And based on the last prompt, it looks like 65% of you picked to kiss his foot and attempt to steal the ring. So we're about to see a ring heist. Yes, let's see how this goes down.
social distancing option as well.
Good riddance. You deserve all of that. You didn't listen to what I said.
Catch a whiff of lavender. It gives way to the muddy taste of something better left without description.
You enjoying that? Disgusting, slimy. You stinking thief! I'll rip your fingers off!
Well, you ruined that. All right,
That's
well, Nick
what
is
you
going to have a
get.
lot of fun trying to get to the next section. Let's see if he's going to manage to do that. So there's as we're looking at this disaster in the making. Yeah, this is not gonna end well. Although Nick, I mean, like I didn't introduce him. He's our lead system designer, so he might actually manage to get something sorted out. I wanted to chat about something as we'll let Nick in the background do combat. I wanted to chat about something that we didn't talk about yet, is how the early access content of Original Sin 2 compares to Baldur's Gate 3 actually. It's a bit I wanted to talk about to give you an idea of exactly how much is in there. Can we, are we going to watch the entire combat? You can cut away, I think, from it. It will take some time.
Let's let Nick deal with that on his own. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be...
But I know there's so much stuff. We were talking earlier about like the amount of dialogue and stuff in this early access compared to previous early access. Like there's a lot of content, right?
Thank you, Jeff. I wanted to drop that because I looked up the numbers and they're pretty impressive actually when you look at it. So Baldur's Gate 3 early access has 80 potential combats compared to 22 in or 2 as early access version. The dialogue lines in Original Sin 2, we had 17,600 lines in all of Act 1. We have 45,980 lines at the moment in BG3. When you look at the amount of spells and actions that are available from the get-go in early access, so for those two that was 69, and here we'll have 146. And then when you look at the amount of characters, and that's by far the most impressive one, in Original Sin 2, it was 142 characters that you encountered in Act 1, and here we have 596 in BG3's early access version. So I'm saying these numbers because it doesn't mean that you're going to play that much longer when you're going to play the early access version of BG3 compared to those two, but it's just testimonial to the amount of choices that you're going to get to make, because you won't have to do those 80 fights. It really depends on what choices you made. You will never see 46,000 lines of dialogue. It really depends on which paths you took, which class you selected, which companions you had, and so forth, which choices you made. And so but it is really like, I thought Boss 2 was a very intellectually challenging already just to maintain the overview. But then when you look at BG3, it's like it's with such a higher level. I mean, I think Adam, maybe you can chat a little bit about what that means on your side, from the way where you're sitting when you're writing these dialogues.
Yeah, I mean the number is important, obviously, but really what's important is that they're interesting, that they're quality, and that they are responsive to the way you play. So we don't want to deliver 45,000 lines of dialogue to you as a speech. We want you to discover them. We want you to interact with them. We want these to feel like conversations. So you're going to get, on a playthrough, the ones that feel right for your playthrough. And I'm going to do something that I'm going to implore you all now. We know that most people tend to be good people when they play CRPGs. It's the metrics show us that. What I'm going to ask you to do is, if you play early access, use as an excuse to do the bad thing. I want you to be your worst version of yourselves, because some of my favorite situations and characters in this game you may not even speak to if you don't try those evil routes. We don't want this to be you clicking the hero button or you clicking the villain button. We don't want it to be like that. We want the world to react to the things you do, and we want you to have reasons for doing them. So if you're doing something terrible in this game, you can probably justify it because you're in a bad situation, but you can also just be really, really bad. And when you're going to meet some of these, how many characters? 596. Some of those characters you'd never speak to. Some you just kill if you're playing the good option. And some of them have really interesting stories to discover. So I beg of you, be evil just this once, but be good in your lives.
Early access is a really good opportunity for this.
It is.
I was going to say.
It's a good place to explore these things. Yeah. And this all goes back to us approaching this game and trying to be as close as we can to like your digital DM. And I think, Chris, you know, this is something that is true with Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop role-playing in general. It's a place where, you know, people gang together, they want to be heroes sometimes, and sometimes they just want to burn the world, right?
Oh, we lost Chris there.
Lost Chris's audio for a second. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was muted.
Chris
My dog was barking. I'm sorry. So I muted myself. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. Flirting with evil has been a part of D&D since the beginning. It's good not to be evil because evil parties tend to implode, but once in a while, it can make the story go in a fascinating direction.
Yeah, absolutely. It does.
One thing that, you know, we talked about options, obviously good versus evil playthroughs, but let's also talk about permutations and, you know, the further expanded set of options in the game. How is that going to work in the game in terms of permutations and choices?
So it begins. It starts like for us. It's like we're inviting you into our world, into our campaign, into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. And from the minute that you choose your class and your race, we're paying attention as writers and as designers. And the world's going to react to that. It's going to react to who you are at the beginning of your adventure. But more importantly, and the more complicated part, is it's going to react to the things that you do. Your party is going to react to the way that you behave. Your party is going to react to each other. They're going to have these complicated relationships that develop. What we want to do is we want the world to always be aware of you. So it's a lot of work to make sure that you get all that, and that's what we mean by permutations. We mean reactivity. We mean a world that makes you feel like you're really part of it, and that we've invited you in and we've let you play with it, and it will react to you, not just tell you its story. It's a lot of work, and if you think of it from a DM perspective, we have this huge detailed world that we created, all these different quests and storylines. And what happens sometimes is you invite somebody like Sven into them, and they do something that you didn't expect, and something which says, oh, you know what, I'm not going to engage with this stuff, I'm going to do something completely different. This is what Sven discovered the other day.
Yeah,
you want to tell me what you did, Sven?
I was fooling around with character creation, and I always want to see how I can break the game. That's pretty much my job description. And so I picked a ranger, and so I had a class passive that I could select. So I picked beast taming because I read that it was going to give me a cantrip, which allows me to find a familiar. And I always liked familiars, so I said, well, I want a familiar. So let's try it out and see what damage I can do with my familiar. And I liked it because level 1 character, here I instantly could go and get recruit that familiar. And so, Nick, can you fire that up? Is that going to work out? Yeah, all right. Nick has 2 machines that he's operating, so he's about to report on how his combat went. I think it went disastrous. So here you see him summoning a spider. So he has a whole bunch of familiars that he could have picked. He could have picked a crab or a cat or a raven or something more interesting. But the spider is also pretty cool. And the thing is that he can then take control of the spider. And so that's the thing that I started fooling around with. And I actually took that spider, I went the entire other side of the world. And so I went with my spider and I listened in on conversations, and I went to look at what all the evil guys were up to. And the amazing thing was that in general, it actually worked. And so that was pretty cool. So I called, can you do a little jump, Nick? Because the spider has this really cool jump. And remember the game of verticality. So just that ability, the ability to jump far as this spider, that alone already allows you to do a whole bunch of things. But the spider can also cause mayhem. Can you go in and bite maybe? So this is a little bit further. There's a character called Shadowheart. She's one of your companions. So maybe bite her in her leg or something. So here we go. Up. Oh, shit.
Oh, critical hit.
Oh, she didn't feel it. Do it again, Nick.
Oh my god.
Oh, she doesn't react. She's supposed to react. Oh no, it's failing live. Oh, no. Oh, okay, so she is reacting. I guess she didn't feel it through her chainmail there. So things like we chatted actually after me doing it, and I said, are you going to put a leash on this? Because that's normally what a developer would do, right? They would say, oh, okay, well, you can't allow this to do. It's going to break the entire game. You have to make sure that you can maximum go 20 meters away or some silly rule like that. And so we looked at each other and said, nah, we're just going to leave it in there. I mean, it works for the most cases, so let's see if the scripters can make it work across the entire game. And so the one limitation that we put on there is that the spider can't go through doors. So that's it. They can't open doors. Obviously, they would be able to go through doors, but with them to do level transitions. But other than that, you can take your familiars. You can take a cat. You can send your cat somewhere, and then you can get the cat to... what's it called? Draw people's attention. It has a different name, but draw people's attention so that people start looking at the cat, which is great for your rogue as he's sneaking through somewhere in the dark. So all this systemic gameplay comes into play just by that one little choice, you know. I just selected beast taming. It gave me a cantrip. Find familiar. And now I have all these new options. So now imagine that you're playing in multiplayer and you're doing all these crazy things. And now imagine that you're the script who have to think of all the permutations that are going with this. And so that is one of the things when we're talking about permutation. But we have more actually. Nick, could you manage to get yourself into a situation with, he has all these save games, and so can you get into a situation with animal empathy or an animal talking while maybe Chris explained to people what the difference is between animal handling and speaking with animals? No, wait, we'll let Chris explain it first. Can we jump back to Chris, please? Yeah, we can't hear him. Oh, we're muted. No, you're muted, Chris.
Animal handling. You can hear me now, though, right? Yeah.
Yes, you're back.
So
yeah.
animal handling is a skill in D&D, and you use it to convince animals to do things. And it's not like you're communicating with them specifically. These are animals you're not talking to. You're just saying, okay, there's a horse over there that doesn't like me. I want to change its mind about me. Or there's a wolf that wants to eat me. I'm going to try to persuade it not to, or maybe feed it some other food and convince it to leave me alone. Those are great uses for the animal handling skill. Whereas speak with animals, the spell allows you to have a two-way conversation with a beast.
Yeah, and so when we were starting to prepare development for the game, we looked at animal handling, and we obviously had done a game in which you could speak with animals with Divinity Original Sin, and say, so what are we going to do? Are we going to put animal handling in, yes or no? Because it actually means we need three dialogues. And we need the dialogue when you click on an animal where you're just not handling the animal. We need the dialogue that you're handling the animal. We need the dialogue that you're speaking with the animal. So it means every single animal is going to come with at least three dialogues, not counting the permutations that are going to come out of this. And so then we looked at each other and said, well, we have no choice really, we have to do all of it. And so this is how we brought animal handling to the game, as many other things. And so we'll have a look at what animal handling looks like in the game. But first, I have a question for Chris. If you were to DM a campaign and somebody wanted to try animal handling on an owlbear, would you allow it?
Oh yeah, I would allow it, because an owlbear, even though it's classified as a monstrosity in the D&D game as opposed to just an ordinary beast, it has a very animal-like brain. So yeah, I would definitely allow it.
Excellent, because that's literally what we said. And so
I was going to say, it's
Nick
like
versus the owlbear.
So you got, you know, you've got living things you can speak to, obviously. Owl bears, spiders.
We're going to see the owl bear, right?
We should see the
owlbear. We can show it?
Can we cut to the owlbear?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Can we keep in mind as you watch this that Chris just referred to this as a monstrosity?
although
the owl bear.
We don't know what the role is going to be at it.
Oh.
You feel the quake of its heavy footsteps before you see it. An owl bear, its beaked face
so awesome.
out of the darkness.
Wow, this is cool.
Is he going to try animal handling now? So bear in mind, if you had speak with animals, he could have talked to it.
Yeah.
The owlbear's one good eye flicks away for a moment. You follow its glance and see an owlbear.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Yep. So we're not going to spoil everything tonight. But the Owlbear Cup, if you manage the situation really well, leads up to multiple other situations in which you find that Owlbear Cup. And if you really, really play your cards well and your dice roll well, then you can actually recruit that Owlbear Cup in your camp, and then you can see the things that happen in your camp. Now, it wouldn't be BG3 if what happens with the Owlbear Cup in the camp depend on what other animals you brought there. So the Owlbear Cup could create quite a lot of havoc. So if you had a favorite pet dog there, it might be that you wake up one morning and your favorite pet dog might have had a small accident. So these are things that you need to take into consideration as you're playing the game. But they're the cool, fun situations that roll out. And all of this is brought to you cinematically also throughout the entire game. And that's where those well, not only where those 45,000 lines of dialogue come from, because we have yet another example of things that bloated our dialogue counts.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe you want to chat about that one, Adam.
I was going to say, it's like there's even more, right?
Yeah, no, like we thought if you can speak to the animals, you can do the animal handling, you can speak to all these different creatures, you can speak to goblins, you can speak to people, you can speak to Githyanki. And then we thought, well, there are other things that you can speak to in the world of Dungeons & Dragons, and that's dead things. So we also allow you to speak dead because we didn't have enough dialogues already. And thankfully, Dungeons & Dragons does have a rule for that. So Speak with Dead is implemented in the game. If Chris, you could just explain how that works in 5th edition?
Yeah, so this is necromantic energy, and it allows you to ask questions, to 5 questions of a corpse. Now, the corpse needs to be relatively intact so that it has like a working mouth or something it can use to. That's one condition. The other, of course, is the corpse only knows things that happened prior to death. Its answer is somewhat limited. Also, the corpse is not always necessarily friendly to you, and as precise an answer as you want.
So when we were implementing
Chris, you cut away from me there. Did you guys hear Chris? I didn't hear him. You're back now.
Yeah, he's back. He's back alive.
Okay, there's nothing wrong on my end. It was just something in the system, I guess. But I was going to say, so Speak with Dead is a spell that lets you talk to a corpse. And you can ask it 5 questions. Go on.
All right. Are we?
Yeah,
We're good?
sorry.
All right.
You're good. We can hear you now, Chris.
Necromantic energy to communicate across the void. It's 5 questions, and the head needs to be intact. And we could have gone the route of just making sure that everyone who died had their head explode, or you decapitated them. We didn't. So there are a lot of dead people that you can talk to in the game. And we've implemented as close as to D&D rules as we could, and we've got a pretty cool take on it, I think. And I think we can look at one of those, right?
Yeah, that is correct. So this is actually on the very beach where you will crash with your nautiloid after you played the tutorial area. So we've shown this area before, but there's bodies lying there, and so he's going to take a scroll, Speak with Dead, and then he's going to have a chat. And so,
Marcus, fisherman.
Obviously the
crash came quick, trying to help folk.
I personally wouldn't have wasted my scroll to this guy, Nick. I don't think that was a really good idea. But anyway, so again, we're not going to start spoiling things too much because we do want players to discover things for themselves. But so when you add all of these things, now suddenly that number of 45,000 starts making sense, especially when you then take all of the different types of playthroughs that you can have of the content. So it is an incredibly reactive game with a lot of choices that are made available to you as a player. In this particular case, Chris, which classes can you use Speak with Dead as? Because not everybody can use Speak with Dead, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you have a spell scroll, that's really handy. But a cleric, for instance, is very handy with Speak with Deads. And so if you have a cleric in the party, that's a good start.
Yeah. So that's another example of how which classes you have in your party actually define what gameplay options are going to be available to you. So, and when the full version of the game is going to release, when we'll have all classes in there, it's going to become very, very hard to get out of character creation because you'll have to make some decisions that will have lots of ramifications as you go across the game. I got news from from Crusher, so it didn't end well.
Goblin camp.
What's the latest? What's the?
So I'm picking up that he died miserably. All right, and
yes,
so he hasn't been able to get back into the situation that he. So we're not going to see the end of Crusher, unfortunately. So that's going to bring me probably closer to one of the problematic things, which is going to be the release date, I guess. Is that correct?
Exactly. This was the awkward part of the stream, but we are going to do a Q&A at the end for the community as well. So if you guys have questions for these guys, that's your next interactive thing to do in chat. Is you're not going to get to pick the final question moment, but you can throw a question at these guys. So put those in the chat, and then at the end we'll come back and do some Q&A with these guys as well on what happened. But yes, we are going to talk about the early access release date in a minute here. But let's talk like philosophically about early access. You're here addressing many of the fans watching are folks that are going to be, I'm sure, jumping into early access. What does that kind of mean to you as a studio? Like, how are, early access is a term that people throw around in a bunch of different ways, and sometimes it's just, literally a marketing beta or something. I mean, I know that you guys treat this part of the development of the game. Can you maybe talk a bit, Sven, like philosophically about like what you're looking as a studio to get out of early access? You'll get feedback, sure, but like how is it going to affect the game and your approach to finishing it up to 1.0?
I like that you're asking me these philosophical questions with a brain in my hand, so it's really cool.
That's it.
So
to be or not to be.
So yeah, I know. So we did early access for Original Sin 1, and we liked it a lot because it helped us to make Original Sin 1 a much better game. So we went full in for Original Sin 2 in early access, and that made Original Sin 2 a much, much, much better game. And so we're hoping to get the same out of early access for BG3. So we're going to go into early access, and we intend to stay there for a while as we improve everything that our community doesn't like about it. Everything that we see is problematic, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to, and on the one hand, we're going to do a whole bunch of analytics, and on the other hand, we're going to listen to what the community is telling us. And so the analytics, we use tools for that show us things. I mean, I think we have some heat maps from Original Sin 2 that we can show. Is that correct?
Yeah, you show me this. This is so cool. Yeah. So what are we looking at there?
So that's for those two. That's a heat map of the early access part of Act 1, and that's where people were dying. So if you played those two and you look at the lower part on the left side, there's a big red spot. That's a guy named Migo. Everybody who played those two will remember Migo because everybody pretty much died there. So we could see that everything was as it should be. And so if the entire map becomes red, it means that we have problems. If we see, and then typically we're going to lower the difficulty of a fight. If we see that there's areas where nobody's coming, then we say, okay, this is too hard to find, so maybe we should give a little bit of hints, and then we modify the level design a little bit. So it's things like that. But then it's also things like, are spells being used? Or maybe we should promote a class and explain to people, well, you can do these things. Do they actually figure out that they can speak with the dead? Maybe they never figure it out because they don't think it would be possible. So we then tell them through a tutorial box, hey, you can speak with the dead. We spend like this amount of thousands of dialogue lines on it. Please try to speak with the dead. It's pretty cool. New gameplay options and so forth. So that's the analytic part, but then there's also the qualitative part where we just engage with the community, not necessarily directly on the forums, but we do read them, and then we use what they tell us to drive internal debate over how will we change things. Like one of the really big examples from Original Sin 2 was we had this thing called durability. People hated it vehemently. They really, really hated it. They like hated it intensely. And so they came up with a whole bunch of arguments, and so eventually we listened to it. We were stubborn, but we eventually listened and made a better game out of it. And so hopefully the same thing is going to happen here with BG3, because it's certainly not easy to translate a rule book that's been around for some time that has so much fans into a video game, and then trying to do justice to the rule book, but also make sure that the video game is a lot of fun. So we have to find a very fine line in between there, and there's many possible interpretations. And so we came up with our interpretation, but now we'll let the community judge it. And then if they come up with better ideas, same thing like what you saw with the Intellect Devourer, we'll just adapt and we'll put it in there. I mean, in the end, it is about, I guess, creating a story with the community, creating a game together with the community, just like what you do, I think, Chris, right? So if you're creating your campaigns, you go along with what people tell you.
Exactly. D&D is a shared storytelling game. So the best ideas come from all around, you know?
Yeah,
excellent.
So this is literally it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the community... But
I was just going to say, we know where our story's going, and we know the various terrible and wonderful ways that this story can end and the different places it'll take you to. But as storytellers, we want the audience to be part of that. And that works for me as a writer within Larian. You know, people play my work every day, people look at my work every day, and you become better through that. You become better by listening, you become better by engaging, and storytelling is very collaborative. So if there are characters, just as in a tabletop campaign, if there are characters that people particularly love or particularly hate, then we may notice that. And you know, it's already happening. We're not even in early access yet, but we see you guys talking, and we see the things that amuse you and that you're interested in, and you know, we do pay attention.
Yeah. So it's
you know, many of the people. You're on, Sven.
No, you're on.
Many people want to know, with the, you know, early access. Most people watching this stream, I'm sure, are folks that are likely to probably jump into EA. But who is early access for? And when you think of it, I mean, it obviously is not a finished game, but something that I know you want to get as many people in to play it. But in terms of setting expectations and kind of the audience for it, who are you targeting for early access, if there is like a prototypical player you'd want in early access?
Yeah, so so I know who we're not targeting. It's the person who wants a finished, polished game. They should wait. They should just wait until version 1.0, because we'll work very hard on making it as polished as we can, but it's not that yet. Early access is for fans who want to have a quick look, like in an early feel of what it's going to be like, and there's a lot of fun to be had. There's a lot of stuff to be seen already. So I think that's one group. And then it's also for people who really want to be part of development, who just want to give us as much feedback as they can, who will play over and over, and will just engage with us in the forums and just give us lots of data to look at, and also give us lots of ideas to work with. And so we had a lot of those in the past, luckily for both of the original sins, so we're hoping we'll see that with BG3 also. And it will be those people that will drive the game to become much better than hopefully it already is. I think it's already pretty good, but I know it can be that much better once people start playing it and we see literally, okay, well, we didn't think of that, that button should be there, it should not be there, that kind of thing. These fights are too hard. Hey, why did nobody ever think of this idea? Like, why didn't we put this in there? So when we put that group thinking into it, you will get a much better game, and we're committed to listening and integrating stuff. It will take us some time, of course. We can't just magic it out of thin air, but we will be listening and we will be integrating things that we see are make sense, or we think are going to be good for the gameplay. Not everything, because we can't do everything, but a lot, for sure.
No, and the fact that you've got 20 plus hours of content in there, I mean, this is, you know, a very, you know, meaty experience for fans that they can't wait to jump into. And again, the production value looks incredible with all, you know, the cinematics and dialogue and everything. So I think we're almost at that point, Sven, where I think you need to get that world premiere button ready, because are you ready to tell the world when early access is coming?
Yeah, I guess so. Hold on.
Oh no!
I hit the wrong one.
Oh! Oh my god! Oh my god! This is too perfect. That's my cue to get out of here.
Let me try that again.
World premiere.
Oh, it's the wrong one. All right. Well, anyway. All right. Let me do it properly. All right. So.
World premiere.
There There you go. So the date that we're targeting for the moment, and we think we have a really good chance of hitting, is September 30th. So on September 30th, hopefully you will find a game that's going to be fun to play from day one. It will still see a lot of improvements, that is waiting for your feedback, waiting for your data, and in which, if anything, you should really try playing as an evil character and see all the cool things that are going to happen to you, because it has an enormous amount of permutations, because we said the word permutations a lot. So September 30th for PC and for Stadia simultaneously, coming September
all right.
30th. Right? I mean, like,
there you say it's going to be clipped out on Twitch, so you got to stick to it now. But all right, so end of September.
I'll try.
For early access. But again, like I think the scale of what you guys are doing, when we first started talking to you guys about this earlier this year, I was like amazed how far along you guys were with the game, and then the fact that you're going to hit with this, the Act 1 content in 6 weeks is amazing. So I think we all can't wait to see everything that's in there. We've got a bunch of questions for you guys that we've been grabbing from the streams on Twitch and YouTube from fans. So the community conversation, you guys are always great about talking to the fans, but I'm just going to go through some of these for you guys based on what the fans are saying, and just get some reactions here for maybe like the next 15 minutes or so. So let's just jump into them. The first one comes from Matthias on YouTube, and he says, what have you guys done to preserve the D&D tabletop spirit in BG3?
You want to pick it, Adams?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, I mean, it's across the entire studio is this bringing it to life. So I talk a lot about this idea of being your DM, and that's really, really true. That's like that comes from the heart. We want you to feel as if you're playing with us. Not that we're just telling you our story, but that you're playing it with us. And that's very, very true to my experience with tabletop D&D. And then there's all the people who are far, far smarter at this stuff than me, who are working to interpret systems, spells, classes. It's an incredible amount of work. And I live in D&D now. I spend my days reading lore. I spend my days going back into the history. This is the world I live in right now. And sharing it is a real privilege. It's such an expansive and brilliant place, and you can already see with some of the choices we've made. We want to explore the strange corners. We want to go to Avernus. We want to put you on a Nautiloid. We want to really bring this to life for all of you.
You've also tapped into some very classic monsters too, like the Mind Flayers, the Owlbears, Bullets, the Intellect Devour. I mean, these are a lot of monsters. We haven't seen an Intellect Devour in a game before, so this is already we're seeing something from classic D&D brought to life for the first time. It's great.
Yeah. An Owlbear, bear cubs.
I would like to add.
Yeah.
There's a very, very, very strong push and a lot of pressure actually inside the studio to reward players' agency, regardless of what choices they made. Make sure that there's always something for them. And so when you put what just said, and actually what Chris just said also, making sure that all those iconic creatures and locations are coming into the game. When you put all of that together, you feel like you're playing, hopefully, a tabletop session with a virtual game master, and that just reacts naturally to whatever your choices were as a party. And it's great in multiplayer, but it's also great in single player.
Awesome. All right, next question comes from Twitch, and this is from the T-Boys. And this person wants to know, which I think is a great question, what kind of feedback are the most helpful for you guys from early access? What is the best method for gamers to share their thoughts and impressions with Larian? So how do you guys want people to, they're obviously super devoted to helping you guys here. What's most helpful?
Okay, so just playing is already very helpful. So you don't have to do anything because we are, well, actually, oh yeah, I lost my ear. So someone's gonna have to put back the ear because I can't with the armor. But just playing with, well, I still have the left ear, so I can hear you and move.
Oh my God! Here comes
if you
the
just
helper.
play the game, and yeah, you're gonna be on the camera. if you click on yes, I want to send data to Larian, the only data that we're getting is data from within the game, or data when you crash. That is already super helpful. If you want to go further, there's a variety of ways that you can reach us. You can reach us on social media. You can reach us on our own forums, the Larian forums. You can reach us on the Steam forums. You just basically write your thoughts there. We will pick it up. We have a community team, and they're looking at everything that people are saying and doing. And so we analyze this. So, and if somebody has a good idea, you can rest assured that somebody in our Slack channel is going to tell us like, that was a great idea. You should really listen to that. And so that is yes, that is a thing that you're going to, a way that you will be able to reach us.
And in a much less professional sense, I lurk everywhere. I absorb your memes. I love them. Please keep giving them to us. You know, I watch you. I listen to you. But that's just me.
Yeah, I forgot, and Reddit, of course, also. We are definitely looking at what's happening on Reddit. So that one too.
I'm sure there's going to be lots of folks giving feedback. There's also a question that just came in from Discord. They're a popular place to talk about it. This is from the Wizard. And Wizard wants to know, will you add more races and classes during EA, or is what we get the first day all we can try out? Great question about sort of how early access is going to evolve, at least from a content perspective. What can you share about that?
Okay, so yeah, no, classes are going to be added throughout EA, companions will be added, races will be added, features will be added. So a lot of the stuff that we advertised is present in early access, but there's more that we haven't advertised yet. And so you will see things pop in. And at the same time, you'll see the game change as we take the feedback into account, whatever the feedback is going to be. So I can't predict it up front, but you will see a lot of change. If you want to have a litmus test of that, or a point of reference, you just look at what we did to Original Sin 2. You just try to play Original Sin 2 in early access as we released it, and then look at the game that it's now. And so all the change that happened to it, that's something that can happen to BG3. But all of the content that gets added to it also, I mean, like Original Sin 2, I think like every month stuff was being added. And so you'll see similar things happening with BG3.
Awesome. Next question comes from YouTube. Verity wants to know, will there be romance options? What can you tell us about romance in the game?
Go ahead, Adam.
Yes, there will. I don't want to tell you too much about them because you know, we don't want to get into too much spoiler territory. Romance is best discovered, you know, by yourselves. You don't want me to describe your romance to you. You want to experience it. But yes, romance is a huge part of the game. The campsite gets a little bit hot at times. That's absolutely true. You'll discover some of it in early access, but yeah.
It's literally one that we want you to discover, but we actually went quite far in everything that we put in there, so people will find it as they're playing the game. I
had no doubt that you have literally everything, although this next question is a good one, which I don't know if you've thought of or it's possible. Victor on YouTube wants to know, can we pet the brain?
Yeah, with your thumb. You saw that.
That's a good.
That's an important question. I was thinking the same thing.
I was going to say, there'll be a Twitter account, can you pet the brain?
You probably will be able to tomorrow now, so.
I was going to say, you guys are listening. There's still 6 weeks till early access comes out. Another question comes from YouTube about backgrounds for the custom characters. So, you know, tell us a bit about that. Like, how much can you pick or build out kind of a, you know, background or origin story for characters?
So there's a bunch of backgrounds in the game. So they have systemic benefits, which are going to help your characters throughout the game. What we didn't do, and because we did start with it actually, we had backgrounds actually also give you a whole bunch of options. But then as we started implementing the dialogue, we actually had quite a lot of problems with that because folk hero, for instance, you got a tag option inside of a dialogue that says folk hero, and then the question from the writer was, yeah, but sure, but why are you a folk hero? What did you do as a folk hero? How did you get here as a folk hero? And so from the dialogue option point of view, the background options that were put into the game, we focused heavily on the classes and the races, and obviously on the things that you've done and earned throughout the game. But we didn't put the backgrounds in there, but at the systemics level, backgrounds do have an impact across all of your classes.
Okay. Good to know. Next question, you sort of hinted at this earlier. For Larian wants to know, have all the recruitable companions been revealed, or are there more to come? And will the roster be comparable to previous Baldur's Gate games? It sounds like there will be more added, right?
Yeah, there will be more. There won't be as many as the previous Baldur's Gate games because we put a lot of extra stuff on our companions if you compare it. Just the relationship, because we have a, when people will see and they'll start playing it, you'll see the enormous amount of relationship options that are there and how far they go. So there will be less, but there are more coming. As a matter of fact, Adam is working very hard on his, and that one is not in the game yet. So not announced either. And we'll just shut up.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited about it. I would talk about it all night, but obviously I cannot. So.
All right. Next batch of questions here. And both these questions are about roles, and they come from YouTube and Kranen. Will there be a combat log that shows the roles occurring? And also, are there stats with modifiers that get added to dialogue roles? What can you tell us about that, guys?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Simple yes answer. I think that's good news.
Yeah. No, I mean,
all right, and then we've got
yeah.
Great. Okay. And then we got one more question for you guys. Let's see. This one comes from Robert Fulmer on YouTube, and he says, "How interactive will the world be? For example, could I shoot a chandelier and it fall on enemy?" Very specific example, but the idea of
Actually,
dynamic environments, emergent gameplay. You guys obviously are building an amazing sort of systemic world, so I imagine there are some great emergent moments. What are the kinds of things we can expect in EA, or what are some of those opportunities?
Well, you can. I think I demonstrated that in the previous gameplay stream, actually. Oh no, I didn't show it. Yes, right. It was in another. So yes. No, I never showed it. Yeah. So the answer is yes.
No.
Yes. So it's like yes.
World premiere.
You can actually have a cool scene that we demonstrated to press at some point, and where that was literally the thing that saved the day in that particular battle. So and so there's other stuff like that that's coming in.
I want to quickly modify as we finish. Robert asked, could I shoot a chandelier and it fall on my enemy? It's very important to note that you can also shoot a chandelier and it falls on your friend. Very important to note that.
It's also important that you can actually jump on your enemy. If you were a spider, you can just jump from the top on the enemy and then just do damage to the enemy if you want.
Very authentic D&D experience, all of that.
Exactly, yeah.
I was gonna say, you guys have thought of it all. Well, I have to say, it's awesome that we date for early access, end of September. You're on the record with that. It looks incredible, right? Just the production value of what you guys have been able to do, especially, with that many dialogue lines in the middle of, a pandemic with all the recording. I can't imagine what's gone into all the cinematic stuff and obviously the gameplay to get it to a point where you're comfortable enough to have people jump in for, 20 plus hours of gameplay is pretty incredible. So September 30th, on the record, we will see everyone, I guess, starting in hell for early access on Baldur's Gate 3 and Act 1. Want to thank Sven and Adam for putting this stream together, and the whole team really at Larian for the incredible work to put things together. And Chris, thanks for joining us as well. The one guy that wasn't in hell today. Having great fun on this, and this is a big moment for all of us that early access is coming. So anything else we should keep in mind before we say goodbye here, Sven?
No, I mean, just if you want to stay tuned, follow us on our social media. It's coming for PC Stadia, September 30th. Be sure if you buy it that it's something that you want to play, that you want to participate in. Otherwise, just wait until 1.0. It'll take some time, but when 1.0 is going to hit, it's going to be pretty good. That's it, I guess. I gotta say, it's I've done a lot of live streams this summer, but I have to say you take the cake in terms of the setup and the fire and the armor. And I don't know what happens after the stream. It's pretty hot.
This is just what This is just what my office looks like. This is normal.
Sven is ready for the feast. You light the candles after, I guess.
The people who decorated this, the people behind the scenes, thank you to everyone. This is hard to do as well during these times. You know, we are socially distancing, we are COVID compliant. It takes a lot of work to put this all together. Thanks to everyone who helps out with that as well. Really appreciate it.
Agreed.
Thanks for sending me to hell, guys.
You're going to give people something to check out. End of September. So September 30th, early access for Baldur's Gate 3. Thanks for watching the stream, and stay tuned to Larian Socials for more updates on that early access day in Baldur's Gate 3. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Sven. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
All right, see you guys soon.
Bye.
Right. Oof.